Have you ever heard a story about kindness that was so incredible it almost didn't seem real? A story about selfless generosity that reminds you just how good people can be? Well, the story you're about to hear is one of those. Now, this isn't a news report. The characters and events have been written to tell a powerful story. But the spirit behind it, that selfless impulse to give, is very, very real. We see it every day in quiet acts of kindness that often go unnoticed. This is a story about how one of those small acts, just a single moment of compassion, can send ripples through time in the most unexpected ways. It was just another Tuesday afternoon when the Miller family heard the words that no family ever wants to hear. They were sitting around a sterile little table in a hospital office, and they had just learned that the surgery their daughter desperately needed was possible, but the cost wasn't. The gap in their insurance was a canyon they could never cross. You could almost feel their hope crumbling under the weight of that impossible number. And just a few feet away, in a quiet diner booth, a waitress overheard their hushed, desperate conversation. She was about to make a decision that would change everything. Her name was Clara. For the regulars at the Old Town Diner, she was a comforting presence, always ready with a coffee refill and a warm, if tired, smile. For 6 years, she'd been working double shifts, picking up every extra hour she could. Every dollar, every single quarter from her tips was counted and tucked away. She wasn't saving for a vacation or a new car. Clara was saving for a dream. A small, simple dream. A down payment on a little house on the edge of town. A place with a garden where she can finally plant some roots. After years of sacrifice, her savings account held $15,421. It was her entire future just sitting there in a bank. That afternoon, the diner was slow. The air smelled of brewing coffee, and you could hear the low hum of the refrigerator. In a corner booth, a young family, a man, a woman, and their pale, quiet daughter, were huddled together. The parents, Mark and Sarah, were talking in low tones, their faces etched with a pain you could almost touch. Their words were just fragments of a nightmare. 200,000, no other options. What are we gonna do? Their daughter Lily, who couldn't have been more than 7, was just drawing circles on a napkin, totally unaware of the fear swirling around her. From behind the counter, Clara watched them. She'd seen her share of hardship walk through those doors, but this felt different. This wasn't about a broken down car or missing rent. This was the sound of a family staring into an abyss, of a child's future hanging by a thread made of dollars and cents. She saw her own struggles in their eyes, that constant worry, the feeling of being one emergency away from losing it all. Her heart just ached for them. She looked at the family and then she thought of her savings. The number she recited to herself every night. A number that meant freedom, security, her dream. The rest of her shift was a complete blur. Clara went through the motions, taking orders, pouring coffee, clearing plates, but her mind was stuck on the family in the corner. She couldn't shake the image of that little girl's fragile smile or the despair on her parents' faces. A battle was raging inside her. $15,000? It had taken her over 2,000 days to save that. It was the key to the life she had worked so tirelessly for. Giving it away meant starting all over, from zero. It didn't make sense. It was everything she had. But then another thought pushed through. What good is a house if a child doesn't get a chance to grow up in it? What's the point of a garden if you have to live knowing you could have done something and didn't? The urge to help, to give without any expectation of getting something back was just overwhelming. As the Miller family got ready to leave, their shoulders slumped in defeat, Clara made up her mind. She wiped her hands on her apron and walked over to their table, her heart pounding. "Excuse me," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm so sorry. I couldn't help it over here. I don't mean to intrude." Mark and Sarah looked up, their eyes just exhausted. I want to help," Clara said, her voice getting a little stronger. "I have some money saved. It's not everything you need, but maybe it's a start. Please, let me give it to you for your daughter." They just stared at her, completely stunned. Mark shook his head. "We can't accept that. You're a stranger. Please," Clara insisted, a tear rolling down her cheek. "My dream can wait. Your daughters can't." The next day on her lunch break, Clara went to the bank. She withdrew every single dollar from her savings, not as cash, but as a cashier's check. She met Mark and Sarah in the hospital parking lot and placed an envelope in Sarah's trembling hands. They weren't any grand speeches, just a quiet moment that felt sacred. She wished them well, asked for nothing in return, not even their last name, and walked away, leaving her future in the hands of strangers. As she walked back to the diner, her pockets were empty, but her heart had never felt so full. 10 years pass. Life for Clara went on pretty much the same. She was still a waitress at the same diner. The dream of that little house with a garden had faded into a soft, distant memory. She never saw the family again. She never found out if the surgery was successful or what happened to little Lily. And she never regretted her decision. Not for a second. That one act of giving had changed her. It taught her that true wealth isn't about what you have in the bank, but what you're willing to give away. She found a quiet peace in her simple life, a contentment her old dream could never have given her. She had planted a seed of kindness that day, and she was okay with never seeing it bloom. Then one autumn evening, Clara's world turned upside down. While walking home from a late shift, a sudden blinding headache sent her to stumbling to the ground. She woke up in a hospital, the very same one she delivered that trek all those years ago. The diagnosis was rare and terrifying, a neurological condition that required an experimental treatment. It was a new groundbreaking procedure, and it was her only real hope. And, just like the family she once helped, the cost was astronomical. $300,000. The irony was just crushing. After a lifetime of taking care of herself, of being the one who gave, she was now the one in need. She was facing a bill that wasn't just a gap, but an entire canyon. Her savings were tiny. Clara lay in her hospital bed, looking out at the city lights, feeling that same cold dread she had seen in the eyes of a stranger a decade earlier. It felt like her good deed had boomeranged back, but as a burden she could never hope to carry. Days turned into a week. Clara's condition was stable but fragile. The hospital's top neurologist decided to bring in an outside specialist, someone renowned for his work on her exact condition. The next morning, a new doctor walked into her room. He was tall, with kind eyes and a calm, reassuring vibe. He introduced himself while looking at her chart. "Good morning, Clara. My name is Dr. Mark Miller. I've been asked to consult on your case." The name didn't ring a bell at first. She was tired, and the medications made everything feel foggy. Dr. Miller looked up from the chart with a strange, searching look in his eyes. "Clara, that name is familiar. Do I know you from somewhere?" He studied her face for a long moment. He saw the same kind eyes, the same quiet strength, now clouded with worry. And then a memory, dormant for 10 years, flickered to life. The diner. The hushed conversation. The waitress. His breath caught. "The diner. You're the waitress." Tears welled in Clara's eyes as she finally recognized the man standing in front of her. It was him, the father of the little girl. He sat on the edge of her bed, his professional calm completely breaking. He told her everything. Her $15,000, he said, was the spark. It was enough to get them approved for a charitable grant. That led to a local news story and then a community fundraiser that covered the rest. Their daughter Lily got the surgery. She didn't just survive, she thrived. She was now a healthy 17-year-old getting ready for college. But that wasn't all. Mark told her that her act of kindness changed him forever. He had been a struggling accountant, but her generosity inspired him to do more with his life. He went back to school, enduring years of grueling study to become a doctor. He specialized in neurology, driven by a deep desire to help families who were facing the same impossible odds his family had. "You didn't just help us pay a bill, Clara," he said, tears now falling freely. "You changed the entire course of our lives. You're the reason I'm a doctor. You're the reason I'm standing right here." He stood up and took a deep breath. "And now it's my turn to help you." He explained that his mentor, the world-famous surgeon who developed the very procedure Clara needed, had heard the story. Moved beyond words, he had agreed to perform the surgery for free. The hospital board, learning of Clara's decade-old act of kindness that happened within their own walls, voted to cover all her remaining hospital costs. "Your bill has been paid in full, Clara," he said, voice ringing with a beautiful finality. "Paid in full 10 years ago with the gift you gave my daughter." If this story touched your heart, please share it to spread the message that kindness is a currency that never ever loses its value. And let us know in the comments below, have you ever witnessed an act of generosity that changed someone's life? True kindness has a way of returning, often right when you need it most. It's like a boomerang you send out into the world, not knowing when or how it will come back, but trusting that it will complete its circle. A single act of selfless giving doesn't just change one life, it can ripple forward, inspiring more good than we can ever imagine. Kindness is never wasted. It always finds its way home.